In the mid-1940s, Frida's health worsened. She lost weight, had frequent fainting spells, and a fever. The pains in her foot and spine increased, and she had to wear a steel corset to support her back. The broken column was painted in 1944, soon after she had undergone surgery. Frida's resolute calm creates an almost unbearable tension, a feeling of paralysis. Anguish is made vivid by nails driven into her naked body. A gap resembling an earthquake fissure splits her torso, the two sides of which are held together by an orthopedic corset, which is a symbol of the invalid's imprisonment. Inside her torso, we see a cracked ionic column in the place of her own deteriorating spinal column. Life is thus replaced by a crumbling ruin. Another 1946 painting that records Frida's pain is The Little Deer, a self-portrait in which Frida presents herself with the body of a young stag, her human head crowned with antlers. Once again, Frida used flawed objects to refer to her bodily and psychological injuries. Massive tree trunks of dry, cracked wood with broken branches symbolize decay and death, and knots and gashes in the bark echo the wounds in the deer's flanks. In Without Hope, 1945, Frida stages her drama in a vast, heaving sea of volcanic rock. Again, the faults and fissures of the land symbolize the violence done to her body. Frida lies in bed weeping, and between her lips she holds the tip of a huge membranous funnel, a huge cornucopia of gore containing a pig, chicken, brains, turkey, beef, sausage, and fish, expressing her horror at force-feeding after surgery. The sheet that covers Frida's naked body is dotted with round, microscopic organisms that look like cells with nuclei or eggs waiting to be fertilized. At the top of the cornucopia is Frida's sugar candy skull. In June 1946, after nearly 9 months of being immobilized in bed, Frida went to see a prominent New York surgeon who performed a spinal fusion. When Frida returned to Mexico, she was first bedridden and then enclosed in a steel corset for 8 months. Instead of improving, her health grew worse. Nevertheless, she painted. Tree of Hope, 1946, shows Frida clothed in a red Tijuana costume, sitting guard over a Frida who lies naked but partially covered with a sheet on a hospital trolley. The recumbent Frida appears to be anesthetized after an operation that has left deep, bleeding incisions on her back. The seated Frida proudly holds a bright pink orthopedic corset. She is fortified by a flag she holds in her right hand, emblazoned in red with words from a Mexican song that Frida often repeated to her friends, "Tree of Hope, keep firm." By early 1950, Frida was so sick that she had to go to a hospital in Mexico City. She was to remain there for a year, having a series of bone grafts and spinal fusions. When she felt well enough, she painted, using a special easel that allowed her to paint lying flat on her back. She worked on My Family, another version of her family tree. Painting had become an ever more important source of spiritual support, and Frida longed to get well so that she could work for longer hours. "When I leave the hospital 2 months from now," she said after 6 operations, "there are 3 things I want to do: paint, paint, paint." Frida had her friends sign their names on her various plaster casts, decorating them also with feathers, mirrors, decals, photos, and the red star and hammer and sickle. "I never lost my spirit," she said. "I passed 3 years in the hospital as if it were a fiesta. I cannot complain." It was out of gratitude to her surgeon that Frida painted self-portrait with the portrait of Dr. Ferriel. It is a secular retablo of Frida surviving danger and Dr. Ferriel taking the place of a holy image. Frida wrote, "I have been sick a year. Dr. Ferriel saved me. He gave me back the joy of life." As Frida's health deteriorated, her attachment to things, to politics, to friends, and to Diego grew more intense. Her allegiance to the Communist Party became a kind of religion. She wrote in her diary, "The revolution is harmony of color and form, and everything exists and moves beneath only one law, life. No one is more than a functioning or part of the total function. Today, as never before, I am accompanied. I am now a communist being. Viva Stalin, viva Diego." She tried to express her political commitment in her painting. In Marxism will give health to the sick, Frida, encased in an orthopedic corset, is saved by the miracle-making saint Karl Marx. 2 enormous hands from the sky support Frida, allowing her to cast aside her crutches. Early in 1953, Frida's doctors began to hint that they would have to amputate her leg because of gangrene. Her diary reveals her anguish and her determination to have hope. "On my whole body, there is only one, and I want 2. In order to have 2, they have to cut 1. It is the one that I do not have that I have to have in order to be able to walk. The other will already be dead. For me, wings are more than enough. Let them cut it, and off I'll fly. Feet, what do I want them for, if I have wings to fly?" They amputated my leg 6 months ago. They have given me centuries of torture, and at moments I almost lost my reason. I keep on wanting to kill myself. Diego is the one who holds me back because of my vanity in thinking that he would miss me. He has told me so, and I believe him. But never in my life have I suffered more. I will wait a little while. It was one of those cold, dank, rainy days when Frida left her bed in order to participate in a communist demonstration. This was her last public appearance, and Frida made a heroic spectacle. Frida knew that she was dying. She wrote in her diary, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to come back." She died Tuesday, July 13th, 1954. Her death was reported as a pulmonary embolism. When Frida died, Diego's usually ebullient, rotund face became haggard and gray. He became an old man in a few hours. Rivera stood by Frida with his hands clenched into fists, his face and body sunken in sorrow. In his autobiography, Rivera wrote, "July 13th, 1954 was the most tragic day of my life. I have lost my beloved Frida forever. Too late now, I realized that the most wonderful part of my life had been my love for Frida." Eight days before she died, when her life was darkened by deepening calamity, Frida Kahlo dipped her brush in dark red paint and inscribed her name and the date, then in large letters, "Viva la vida."